Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan. So this year, 2019, we've seen this huge rise, this surge in popularity and acceptance of plant-based meats. We had a really successful IPO earlier this year for Beyond Meat, which I totally missed out on. Just happened so quickly. Beyond Burgers, Impossible Burgers is gaining a lot of traction in the marketplace. You see all these fast food restaurants offering now plant-based food options, usually based on one of these two companies I just mentioned. So, the beef industry is losing some market share, and we'll see in a second. It's really not that much. They really don't have too much to worry about at this point, but they're already up in arms, reacting, making up a bunch of lies, just complete nonsense, trying to defend their products. First of all, let's see how much market share has alternative plant-based meats really taken away from the beef industry.
But yeah, it's sort of a David and Goliath picture here, because Beyond Meat is going to have, maybe $240 million in revenues this year. Whereas the cattle industry, the USD estimates the cattle herd has a market value of $67 billion. But
indeed, this really is a David and Goliath situation. We're talking about barely a $250 million of revenue for Beyond Meat compared to $67 billion for the beef industry. So why are they so up in arms lately?
Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger have such momentum, and ranchers are taking notice, and they have several beefs. Beef number one. A Beyond Meat CEO told me land use. He uses less than 1/10 of the land necessary to provide the same amount of protein that cattle use.
That's so true. As more people become more aware of the environmental footprint of their food production, you just can't beat plant-based meats when it comes to making an environmentally friendly food product. And this reporter was correct. Beyond Meat's product was tested in a University of Michigan study, a peer-reviewed published study comparing the environmental footprint of producing traditional beef versus plant-based meats, and it's not even close. I mean, this is ridiculous. The Beyond Burger uses 99% less water, 99%, 93% less land, 90% fewer greenhouse gas emissions, and about half the energy compared to producing traditional beef burgers.
But Montana and Wyoming rancher Brett Crosby says all land is not created equal.
Oh, really? This ought to be good.
90% of the land that is grazed by cattle has no other productive use.
So that one comment there alone is enough for me to make a response video, because this is one of the wildest things I've ever heard. I mean, I can go off on this for like 20 minutes, but I'll try to keep it brief here. First of all, I have no idea where he got this really scientific sounding statistic with 90% of land that's otherwise has no productive use. I couldn't find it anywhere, and I did some extensive searching. As far as I know, it's probably something that the beef industry tells each other to make it sound like that they're doing something really beneficial for humankind by making use of this otherwise unusable land, which is complete nonsense. First of all, let's look at the land that he's standing on here, this otherwise unusable land. It looks like it could be used for a lot of things. First of all, if there's no cattle there, it's already being used by the native plants and animals who otherwise would be displaced or destroyed by the introduction of grazing livestock.
Every year, the Bureau of Land Management, an agency within the U.S. Department of the Interior, rounds up thousands of wild horses and burros from our public lands in the West. Unfortunately, they have to compete for their resources with commercial interests such as livestock.
They round up wild horses and burros en masse. And they do that through a few different means, but the primary one that they use is through helicopter stampede.
So as a tax-paying United States citizen and a vegan, it really angers me that my earnings go to fund this horrific practice that benefits the cattle industry, the killing of wild horses, so they don't compete with the resources that these grazing cattle want to have. And I want to point out, if you're eating plant-based burgers, this cruel practice, this expensive practice that's done for the benefit solely of the beef industry doesn't have to happen. I also want to point out that livestock or livestock feed occupies 1/3 of the Earth's ice-free land, and another study shows that livestock covers 45% of the Earth's total land. Furthermore, numerous studies and reports conclude that animal agriculture is the leading cause of species extinction, ocean dead zones, water pollution, and habitat destruction.
90% of the land that is grazed by cattle has no other productive use.
Well, obviously, your productive use of the land is a little too productive because you're leading to all these problems that I just outlined here: habitat destruction, species extinction, water pollution, even ocean dead zones. So you guys aren't the best stewards of the land, as your track record here shows. And again, remember, by switching to plant-based burgers, it requires 93% less land, 99% less water. So you guys cannot even compete remotely as far as environmental factors go. And you're saying this land has no other productive use than to have cattle graze it? I mean, how self-serving and how narrow-minded. What do you mean by productive use? I see lots of other productive uses for that land there behind you. For one, it could be used as a wildlife preserve. What do you think about that? Just let the land be natural, open to all animals to freely roam the land and not be shot by the United States government. As well, I mean, you could build on that land. It doesn't look that horrible. I've seen people build towns and houses in much more weird, environmentally challenging places, like, say, Las Vegas. So it's just really self-serving to proclaim this land is completely useless and it must be utilized by cattle.
Have you tried a plant-based meat?
I've tried them all, yes, I have.
What do you think?
So I will say that the last is the science improves, those products are getting better.
Wow, that's surprising. I actually agree with this one rancher on this one point, but I'm sure he's going to say some bad stuff about fake meat.
But California cattle rancher Kevin Kester has a second beef. His industry is stringently regulated by the USDA, whereas the plant-based products are more loosely regulated by the FDA.
We want to make sure that the USDA has oversight of that because they do a really good job at safety inspections, and we want a level playing field for all products regardless of where they come from.
I mean, is he serious here that plant-based meats, which don't have the same problems that animal meat has, that they get bacteria rather quickly and easily and goes bad and makes you sick? That's why there are so many regulations in place, because of all the dangers of eating meat, which don't exist with plant-based meats. I mean, it'd be absolutely pointless and expensive to have the same safety inspections, the needless safety inspections for plant-based meats. I mean, yeah, you're supposed to keep Beyond Meat refrigerated, and they recommend that you cook it, but I'm pretty damn sure if you had to eat it raw, it wouldn't make you sick in the same way that eating some old raw meat would make you. But anyway, I'm not a medical expert, I'm not a scientist, so don't take my word for this, but I just think his point here is baseless. It's apples and oranges, or comparing peas with dead beef carcasses. Anyway, leave your questions and comments below. What do you think of these criticisms levied against plant-based meats by people who want to keep the same status quo, government subsidized system of beef production and all just meat production in general going? And what do you think about them fighting back so soon? I mean, remember, we're comparing an industry that's worth $67 billion compared to one that's about $240 million right now. It's such a David and Goliath fight, and I just think it's complete misuse of their power as far as money and political power goes to try to fight an emerging industry that is actually much more beneficial to the planet, beneficial to our health than their old industry is, but they just want to keep it going because that's where they've made their profits, where they've made their billions at for all these years, and they don't want that to shut down. So they'll just take our health down and the health of the planet down so they could keep getting fat off the beef cash. So anyway, let me know what you think down below. Hit like if you like this video, share it, and remember to vote vegan. Yes, I'm running for City Council in Long Beach, District 2, on the Humane Party platform. If you live in Long Beach, you can vote for me next year in March. And if you live anywhere in the United States, you can contribute to my campaign. Please, everyone, go check out my website, ryanlum.net.